Police fired tear gas and water cannons as pro-democracy protesters threw petrol bombs in the latest in a series of clashes that have plunged the Chinese-ruled city into its worst political crisis we've seen in decades. Police fired round after round of tear gas as protesters took cover behind umbrellas between the local headquarters of the Chinese People's Liberation Army and government headquarters. Protesters also threw bricks at police, we understand. Well, our correspondent, that's Patrick Falk, is monitoring the protests for us in Hong Kong. We're live to him now in the city. Good afternoon, Patrick. What's happening on the streets of Hong Kong right now?
Well, this is a very tense situation here right now. Just about half an hour ago, this area, which is called Causeway Bay, which it's a key shopping district, was filled with protesters who had converged after being pushed back from Central earlier today, and they were tearing the area apart. They've been pulling up bricks from the streets. Some of them we saw making petrol bombs earlier on. And so just a short while ago, the police pushed through and they've repelled the protesters westward. So we've got a water cannon here, and it's a really very tense situation indeed, and very fast moving as well. I'm not even sure how long we're going to be able to remain in this position right now, but it certainly looks as though that this night isn't going to end well.
Patrick, we are experiencing some sound technicalities. Now, this is a major, if you can hear me, Patrick, this is a major challenge or a nightmare even for the communist government in Beijing, because they can either crush what's happening in Hong Kong right now or tolerate being defied in such a way that undermines everything about their whole structure of government. And both sides seem undeterred, as though they're not going to back down right now. What do you think is going to happen in the weeks ahead?
Well, that's very hard to say. We are in the middle of a stalemate. As you say, the central government is in a difficult position because it doesn't want to bend to the will of the people of Hong Kong, who've been making their demands and been persistent with their demands for over 2 months now. And they're also very worried indeed that this is going to spill over to the October 1st celebrations, the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, and that is something they're worried about, and they're concerned that it's going to spoil the party, if you like. But look, this is something that this crisis really requires a political solution, and so for the time being that just isn't forthcoming, so there's absolutely no end in sight. With regards to what's happening today, as we know, the rally that's taken place, which started off being relatively peaceful, one might argue, albeit although this was an illegal assembly because the police had banned this rally from taking place, descended into absolute chaos as the day went on. It is arguable that might not have happened had the police allowed the rally to take place in the first place. So we had some very chaotic scenes indeed that took place in Central, and some violent confrontations, and it does look as though that's going to continue into the night.
Patrick, this seems to be still right now a very much of a leaderless movement, and it's a deliberate move, one can imagine, so that one leader can't be targeted by authorities. Now, we understand that one of the prominent leaders in these protests, that's campaigner Joshua Wong, was arrested. He's already served prison time before this. He's been released on bail, and he did address the media. Do you have any idea for us? Can you give us an idea of what he said to the media contingent?
Well, quite simply, Joshua Wong said that Hong Kong will continue the fight. And a lot of people have been questioning whether or not the arrests make any sense, because it's only sparked more anger among the protest movement. And some people will have said that it was, frankly, not a smart idea at all. But there have been a wave of protests that have taken place over the last 48 hours. And like you say, it doesn't entirely make sense, because these people, although they are prominent opposition figures, are not necessarily leaders of this movement, this current anti-extradition bill movement has never really had any leaders as such from the start. Part of the reason is because what we've seen happen to the leaders of the 2014 umbrella movement. Many of them have been arrested. Some of them have been disqualified from standing in elections. So we know that hasn't ended well. So this has been part of the strategy of this protest movement all along, not to have any leaders as such. But it is true to say that Joshua Wong and some of the others that have been arrested are still very prominent voices indeed.
Patrick Falk coming to us live from Hong Kong, bringing us up to date on the ongoing protests in that city. We'll try and cross back to him later on in the afternoon. Time now for a short break.